to a legal fight in Washington over the Trump administration's recent deportations. A judge this week found probable cause to hold the administration in contempt.
The reason? For disregarding an order he gave last month, halting deportation flights to El Salvador. U.S. District Judge James Boschberg on Wednesday wrote the White House deliberately flouted his written order. He ordered the White House not to deport anyone under a centuries-old law called the Alien Enemies Act. This is exactly why we keep Sue O'Connell close by. We're going to need her help now to explain what this law is, Sue, and how it's being used here.
Glenn, the Trump administration has repeatedly used one word to describe illegal entries into the United States: invasion. Now, this obviously is military terminology, but it serves a purpose. It activates this law from the 1700s. But why does this act exist, and why do critics challenge its current use? Let me explain. In 1798, America nearly went to war with France, and preparing for that conflict, Congress passed laws that would expand federal authority. The Alien Enemies Act granted presidents sweeping powers to detain and deport non-citizens without due process, but only during wartime. Leaders feared non-citizens might side with France. Well, since then, the law has been used only 3 times and hasn't been used since World War II, when 120,000 people with Japanese heritage were sent to internment camps in the United States. That is, until President Trump. In March, the Trump administration invoked this law to deport hundreds of migrants allegedly tied to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, or TDA. Trump's executive order stated the group is, quote, perpetuating an invasion of and predatory incursion into the United States. It mandates apprehension and deportation of Venezuelan citizens in the U.S. with alleged TDA connections. This follows Trump's campaign claims that TDA had, quote, taken over, end quote, Aurora, Colorado.
You look at Aurora in Colorado, they are taking over the towns, they're taking over buildings, they're going in violently.
Critics argue that Trump is misapplying the act. The Brennan Center for Justice stated, quote, the Alien Enemies Act may be used only during declared wars or armed attacks on the United States by foreign governments, end quote. The administration's defense attempts to link TDA directly to Venezuela's government. They claim the gang has both connections to President Nicolas Maduro's regime and controls territory within Venezuela itself. In a narrow ruling earlier this month, the Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration can use the Alien Enemies Act to justify deportations, but said migrants must get a court hearing before they are taken from the United States.
But what about the issue of contempt, Sue? Because we're talking judicial branch versus, I guess, the executive branch. It could be a battle.
Yeah, right. It could be a battle, but this could also lead to White House officials being prosecuted, and an order of contempt gives the judge a unique ability. If Trump's DOJ declines to prosecute the matter of violating that court order on its own, Judge Boschberg has the ability to hire a private attorney to do so. Now, he's given the administration a deadline of next Wednesday to try to, quote, purge their contempt and to prove they did not violate his temporary restraining order.
You know, Sue, for many people, one deportee at the center of all of this has been Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We've all been sort of fascinated about his case. Tell us more about it and how it's related to what you're talking about now.
So, of course, he's the Maryland father who ICE has admitted was wrongly deported, but ICE doesn't have any plans to bring him home despite an order from the Supreme Court to do so. We saw our first images of him since his deportation last night. They were posted by Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen, who traveled to El Salvador to speak with him. Abrego Garcia's case is separate from the case being overseen by Judge Boschberg, but the judge in his case has said she, too, is determining whether to undertake contempt proceedings. Now, the White House responded this morning by posting this image of a New York Times headline scribbled over with the caption, "Fixed it for you." The administration has doubled down on its baseless claims that Abrego Garcia is a gang member. His lawyers deny that now. So right now, we wait to see if anyone from the Trump administration is going to be held in contempt for violating court orders. The administration says it plans to appeal those efforts. Here in the newsroom, I'm Sue O'Connell.
Thank you for the explanation, Sue.
You're welcome.